anymore, so mine works.
You got 9 seconds. Oh, the clock is right on this. That's one fast. Are you doing closed session in here?
No, we're not gonna go the one on the left, we're gonna go past the Coke machine, go into Tony's little conference room. He said it's quiet right here. He said,
It
"Not room," so people can hear you.
I got it. We will probably be at the mic.
Now I'm on. I have to press the button. See, when the light comes on, that means I'm on. I'm learning. Welcome to the Union County Board of Education meeting of March the 21st. This is our call to order, and we will please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Starting now. Thank you. And now we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I believe I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda. I think we have everything on it we need.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
I have Mr. Stewart, since his voice is last, and I heard another voice. I have a second from Mr. Martin. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And without further ado, we have Ms. Schaefer for the superintendent search process. Would you like to present for us a little bit? Answer questions, all those things?
I need to turn this on. Yep, there we go. Okay. Nice to see all of you on this beautiful spring day with all the flowers coming out. I'm Allison Schaefer. For those of you, I think most of you know me, Allison Schaefer. I'm the legal counsel and director of policy for the North Carolina School Boards Association. With me is Jim O'Rourke. He's one of my staff attorneys. We do, in our section, we do a lot of things, but we also do superintendent searches and help assist boards with that. I have done, I'm just sort of a little synopsis. I think you all received some materials. I've done about 140 searches in the state of North Carolina now, including the last one when you hired Dr. Ellis here in Union County. We are happy to be here. I understand the board has already approved using us for the service. Is that correct? And we thank you for that vote of confidence. We are here to get you started. And so what I have done is hand out some folders to the board that has the same documents that we sent out to you last week so that you would have a chance to look at them ahead of time. And I'm here also to talk you through the process. I know most of you have not been through it before. So answer any questions that you have about the process. I want to make a couple of points first up front. This is your process. So while we may make recommendations and do draft documents, you want to feel free to change them in ways that you suit your needs, change the process if you feel like it would be helpful to do so. We are not in charge, you are, the board. We are very respectful as the School Boards Association. We understand your role. You're the ones that are in charge of the process, and by law, you are the only ones that are you're elected specifically to make this decision, and you're the only ones that are given that legal authority to make this decision. So we, in addition to being respectful of your role in the process, we also do not make decisions for you. You are the decision makers by law, and we help you get good information, get good candidates. We help you understand what has worked well in the past in the times we've done searches and what hasn't worked well. We can make recommendations, but ultimately you're the decision makers. We do not sit in on interviews. We don't tell you who your strong candidates are. That's your job, but we will give you the tools that will allow you to make good decisions with good information. So we get you good candidates, we help you with the process, and we get you good information about the candidates so that you can make informed decisions, okay? That's kind of our overarching approach to this process. We, in order to get you started with your superintendent search, I presume the board has already gone to the place where you decided you wanted to do a search, and so we sent you the documents that we would need to go over to get you started. The first thing that is in your packets, if you look on the right-hand side of your packets, I'm going to go in the order of the way the documents are listed. So the first document is just a meeting, as a letter that just describes what's in the packets and what we need to look at in order to make some decisions. The first document is our proposed timelines. And I want to talk a little bit about why we sent you two. I did not know what kind of timeline you all were under, where you were worried about trying to get someone before school started, or wanted to go after school started. I will tell you that the only thing that is set in stone on your timeline is the application deadline. We prefer the longer one in terms of getting you more candidates. Our experience is that the timeline number one is an accelerated timeline. Timeline number two is a traditional timeline, which is where we normally go to if we have plenty of time. So if you have the time and you're not feeling rushed to make a decision, if you have an interim that you're going to have in place or whatever after Dr. Ellis leaves, you're going to, the first one, you're going to at least be August 15. The second one only takes you to September 1, but we can, again, if we have more time, we could do some more steps in there. But the second one is the one we would recommend if you feel like you have time, and that would be May 17. And I don't know if the board wants to talk about that, but that's the first decision you need to make, is what your timeline looks like in terms of the length of advertising.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yeah, and that was my next question. Can we just stop you whenever we'd like to ask questions? Is that
Please.
okay? Or
Absolutely, that's the whole point. This is a discussion, not a talk.
Ms. Schaefer, is there a way to have the application deadline of May 17th, but to keep the end date of August 15th? So is there a way to kind of
The answer to that is yes. If you look at some of the areas we have there, where we have a 10-day period down in the middle on meetings for initial interviews. If you can do your interviews at the beginning of that period, we can squeeze time there. And the same for some of these other things. We can, if the board wants to take a little less time to look at the applications, et cetera, we can squeeze a few days out of a lot of steps here. So
because I do like what you say about more time to get applications obviously gets you a better pool.
Yes, and that's important.
I think that is important.
Yes.
But I do also, and I made this in the first meeting, I do like the thought of being able to have somebody start before school starts. I think school starts on August 29th. Is that correct? August 29th.
And again, the only thing you need to vote on today is when the applications are due. And as long as the board will, can do some of these things at the beginning of the time ranges we've set, then we should be able to do that. Certainly before the 29th. The issue is also, though, we give, by state law, you have to have 30 days notice if you're licensed in this state. You have to give 30 days notice at your former employers, or your license gets revoked for the remainder of the school year. Or it can be if your employer does not release you. Some sitting superintendents have 6-month notices in their contracts. We don't know where those are, so it might depend on who your candidate is and when they can be released from their school district. So with that caveat. Question?
If I may, I'd like to caution the board while we talk about accelerating timelines that we also have a budget process that has in recent years not been the smoothest process in the world once we get past that May 1st timeframe. And we also have graduation ceremonies, end of year duties. So let's not compress this too much if we can help it. And that's what I care to caution you. Now, I know from what I understand, Ms. Schaefer says we can work very well with a timeline to May the 17th, and after that, we can be flexible. So I think that's what we need to focus on, whether we're looking at a May 3rd or whether we're looking at a May 17th, and then be flexible from that point on. Thank you.
Ms. Shaver?
Yes.
Seems like there was a little, typically, when a superintendent accepts a position, as you said, it could be a 30-day notice, as much as 6 months.
60 days.
Oh, 60 days.
6 months would be
Oh,
unusual.
okay, 60 days. Is there a typical time frame that you tend to see when this happens? And is there a natural break where a superintendent would like to come in, say, at the beginning of the year or the middle of when school has already started?
Typical is usually they can get there within 30 days, but if you have contracts that are longer. And I mean, obviously starting before school starts is helpful, although most of the preparation for school starting should be done, before school actually starts. And Christmas break is a natural one. And then, at the end of the school year is a natural one. So those are the basically natural breaks. Any other questions about the timeline?
Ms. Boyd, did you have a
I
question?
had one. Mr. Chair, I know that you're talking about the budget, and I think we all, we voted on our budget timeline a few months ago, so that's already there. My concern is I want to make sure that we are flexible and have some dates, because this is the summertime. People are going to have, vacations, things coming up, and we all need to know as a board, for all 9 of us, what we're looking at, and lock it in and make sure that we have who we need to have there. So I don't know, when you said that, if you meant do the May 17th and then decide later, or figure it out today.
No, I think we're fine looking at a tentative schedule past May 17th. I think what Ms. Schaefer was letting us know, that up to May 17th, we don't need to have any flexibility. We need to go ahead and say, this is when we're going to do it, and move from there. And then after that, we can set a timeline, but we need to be flexible with it if necessary. And I think that's what you're alluding to. I might, while it's on my mind, I might also like to say on the first item you gave us, the initial draft documents, Ms. Schaefer, on the second page, the third full paragraph, after the application process is received and processed by you, we'll send each board member a user ID and password to access a secure online website that will contain PDFs. You also put in there, note, board members may also request in advance that the School Board Association provide paper copies. I have found myself that I am much more agreeable with the paper copies than I am electronic. I have a hard time jockeying through several and keeping several things open on my page. That may be an age thing and it may be an eyesight thing, but I feel like it's nice to have a paper copy of it. I know it came in a very large box, but it allows us to put notes in the margins. It allows us to come back to it. So I would request that as one. I'm not sure anybody else would be interested. Mike's about to hand me his glasses, so I don't have to complain about eyesight.
And we can do it for one or all. We also will have the electronic available to everyone. So we do have an online application form. But we're happy to make copies. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that now or make requests, or you want to think about it, because we don't need to know that probably till the applications are actually.
Well,
in.
we are my size fits me, but that's right, Mr. Chair. So we can get you a paper copies, I'm sure, Mr. Chair.
Does anyone else feel like they're going to want a paper copy?
I would like a paper copy.
And you?
Yes.
1, 2, no? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, paper copy?
I don't know yet.
No? You said you don't know? Okay, yes. You counting, Jim? Okay. So 2 without paper copies and everyone else so far wants one?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, 7. Okay. Okay, that's fine. We're happy, like, well, this is, everybody can get it in the way that they're most comfortable with, so that's fine. Okay, so 7. All right, let me just take a minute to go through the timeline too. As we talked about the 17th, I just want to go through the stages that are generally comprised of superintendent search. If you look at, it looks like everybody's leaning toward the 17th. Is that accurate? Are we comfortable with that? Okay. When we get to the end of the discussion of this, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the 17th. But let's look at that 17th timeline number 2. These are the ways that we traditionally do the search, and that is we begin the advertising the day after you meet to talk about them, which would be tomorrow, and then there will be some input period for community and staff. We have an online survey, which we'll discuss later, that is, we usually get good response of. If you want to have people come to your board meetings and give them an opportunity for public comment, our experience with setting a lot of public forums has been informed by Guilford County, which set a number and got very low attendance because people did have the opportunity to do the online survey. So we find when that's available, you don't need as many opportunities for people to come to you in person. And in fact, people often feel more comfortable filling their surveys out than they do coming to a board meeting and speaking. So we find that those public forums, in Pitt County, we had the same experience. The public forums were not very well attended because there was an online survey opportunity. So we don't suggest if you have any forums, that you have, an opportunity maybe 30 minutes before a board meeting or maybe one public forum, but not all over the county like some boards have set, because they just generally tend not to be very well attended. And that's a lot of time for the board to come hear folks when people don't show up. So.
Allison, can I interrupt you for a question?
Sure.
Speaking of forums, I know some districts have had public forums with the last 3 finalists, 5 finalists,
Right.
what have you. Is that something you recommend, and would there be time in the timeline for that to take place?
It is not something we recommend for several reasons. We find that if you, and again, it's something you can ask the candidates, but by law in North Carolina, all of the identity of the finalists and all of the information about them is confidential by law. And the only way you can release that information is to get their permission. The few districts that have tried to do the forums have had some of their strongest candidates pull out because they did not want their names out in public. And the reason for that is this: it's the sitting superintendents that have a concern. And you're a size of district that you're going to see sitting superintendents interested in your position. If they don't get the job, then they have to continue to be a superintendent where they are, and it makes it very hard for them to go back to their communities and say, well, I was looking around, but I'm really committed to this district. I mean, that just doesn't work very well for them. So a lot of sitting superintendents are very reluctant to let their names go out. And the 2 districts that two districts that I've been involved with and I'm aware of that did that, they did lose one of their key finalists, and they tend to be sitting superintendents. So there are other ways to get input. That's why we recommend this upfront input. Community input and staff input is very important. But the way we do it with our laws structured the way they are is that getting it in a forum that's not about the candidates, but it's about what people want to see in a superintendent, allows that input in a very positive way, but is consistent with our state laws and keeping your best candidates. So that's our experience. Okay. And again, it's done some places, but my experience is you lose your best candidates. Okay, so then we have that opportunity. Also, sometimes if organizations want to weigh in, your county commissioners or your chamber of commerce or your, association of churches or whatever, want to weigh in, your PTA with a statement, we can submit organizational statements, and that would be part of our presentation to the Board of Community and Staff Input as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about surveys at the end because those are down in the stack, but I just wanted to kind of go over that. Rather than doing the board profile now, which would slow you down, we think it's important to do that after you get the community and staff input so that the board can be informed by what your community and your staff are concerned about when you're developing your profile. So what we do is we have this period of input, staff and community input, and then the board would come back together and we'd present those results and work with the board on developing a profile in a public meeting at that time so your community and your staff can see what it is the board's priorities are based on, in part, what the input has been. Okay? Is everybody comfortable with that concept. So that all's happening while the applications are coming in. The application deadline is the only thing that's set in stone because we have to advertise that and let people know when the applications are due. After that, and by the way, it's a quiet time in terms of the applications between when you start advertising and when they come in. People will call me up a week ahead of time and they'll say, well, how many applications do we have? And I'll say, 1, maybe 2, because no one almost turns it in way ahead of time. I mean, these are busy people, and they are, obviously have school systems to run, a lot of them, and or jobs to do, and they tend to not get their applications in until right at the last minute. Pretty much every time, half of the applications at least come in on the last day. That's just the way it works. That's why you have to set a deadline, because if you don't, then people just won't get it in. So, so just know that that's the way it works. And if your chairman calls me up and says, how many do we have a week ahead of time? I'm not going to want to tell him because it'll make him nervous, and just let me be nervous for you that way. Okay. We will do what we can to get you a good pool of applicants. I really think with a system of this caliber and this size, you're going to have some great applicants. I know you did last time, especially the one that you got. But really, all you need is one really, really good one. So just keep that in mind. Normally, well, if a small district, if we get over 15, we feel like that's a good number. In a district this large, you're probably going to get more than that. So, but remember, it just takes one. Okay, so then the application comes in, and then we get it ready for you. And that I said we don't screen for you. I don't believe that is consistent with our state law. I believe that it is your job to make those decisions. I'm not your superintendent. I'm not your, I'm not the one who knows what it takes to run this system, and I'm not in your community, and no one else is who does this work. The people who need to do the screening are you all who know what you're looking for. You will have identified by then what your criteria are, but we do give you tools that makes it much easier to narrow down. And so one thing we do is we do what we call an experience chart, and that is to kind of give you a list of who you have and where they work, their number of years of experience, are they licensed, have they been a superintendent, and we'll categorize them by highest degree of experience. So the superintendents will be in one group, and then the assistant superintendents in state, out of state. That sort of tells you the people. If you can look through that chart, you can say, these are the people I'm most interested in looking for. And we would suggest, rather than go alphabetically through the applications, that you look through them in the order of criteria that you're interested in. So I think that helps you get a feel for some of the candidates that you're most interested in first, and then look at the other folks, and then you have something to compare, and somebody can really stand out in other groups. We sometimes have non-traditional candidates who've not been in the education field, like Mo Green, and who was in Guilford and was in Charlotte as a deputy superintendent, and then was in Guilford, and he did a great job. So we do have folks from all walks of life, and we'll probably get some of those.
Allison,
Yes.
are superintendent licenses transferable from state to state, or is there an application period from one state to another?
Good question. It's automatic based on your credentials. So and in this state, you're no longer required to have a superintendent license to serve as a superintendent. So first of all, getting a license used to be a barrier. If you couldn't qualify, you couldn't be a superintendent in the state. About 10 years ago, maybe more, our General Assembly passed a law that allowed us to have non-traditional candidates. That was very popular across the country for a period of time, wherein you had the governor of Colorado going to be the Los Angeles superintendent and things like that, where the people who'd been government leaders or run a university system, for example, were going to run school districts. And so our state basically accounted for that by saying, well, if somebody applies who has 5 years of leadership experience that the board deems appropriate, and at least a bachelor's degree, they can qualify. The State Department set those criteria, and they're very, very low, because your principals have to have more than that. But there are, like I said, Mo Green, who was the superintendent in Guilford, worked under an alternative credential. So it's not a barrier to not have one. It is easy. It is easy in the sense of you have to have at least a 1 year's experience as a principal, and either a 6-year certificate, which is all but the dissertation of your doctorate, or a doctorate in educational administration to get a license. But it's not a barrier if you don't have one, if you meet the other criteria. Okay, so people coming from other states. Another thing is in the city of Lexington, their superintendent only has a master's degree, but in Tennessee, where he came from, that was all he needed to be a superintendent. So he qualifies under the alternative guidelines as well, even though he's in the education field. Okay. All right, so then we make, the other thing we do is we do internet searches of all the candidates before we send them to you. And the reason we do that is because if there's something very public that you need to know that we're aware of, we will find that in the newspaper or some objective format. We do not recommend candidates. Again, we don't tell you subjective things, we tell you the objective things, and some of that would be what appears in the newspaper. So we look for why someone might be leaving their district, what controversies and lawsuits they may have had, what awards they may have had, whether they've been well received. All that will come out of the internet searches that we do. But we think it's important. And we found, the reason we started doing that is because we found that as soon as people got their packets, all of the board members got on the internet and started looking for that themselves. So we figured we'd just save you the time. And we don't believe, blogs obviously are not reliable in terms of news. Those are people's opinions. And that's different from getting an objective newspaper article about whether someone got an award or whether they have resigned or whether they had an issue. Okay?
I have a question, Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Since you brought up the internet and that sort of thing and blogs, in light of what's transpired here in Union County the last several years between the lawsuit redistricting and investigations, how likely or how difficult will it be when candidates research us to find a quality candidate because of so much negative publicity that's come to Union County by certain groups?
I don't think you're going to have problems attracting good candidates. You're a good school system in good shape. I think that controversies are in every large district in this state, there are similar controversies. In every large district in this country, there are controversies. And I just don't think that is going to keep good people from applying. I just don't, fortunately, I think. So there are some people that disagree with public education, and they're gonna be negative about public education generally. So I think you'll be fine. I do. I believe that. And part of my job is to sell your school system to the people who I think, to the people who are interested in applying. And also, even though we don't make this, I do make phone calls to encourage people to apply that I know are looking or interested and talk to them about the district. And part of my job is to explain why this is a really good place to come, because I believe it is. I believe you have a lot to offer. So,
Allison, can I ask another quick question?
absolutely.
You mentioned if a candidate applies that clearly does not meet our criteria, say education criteria, they don't even have a master's, are you going to weed those out? Or you're just basically going to send us everything you get?
I'll send you everything, but if you look at their credentials and you look at the list, it'll have whether they
Right.
qualify
But
for.
you're not even going to weed out the ones that don't qualify. We're
No,
going to see
because-
everything that comes in.
Right, I am, but you can pick them out. You can say, I'm not interested in those folks, and I'm not willing to consider them. That's why that chart is helpful, because it allows you quickly to make those decisions, not me, because that's a subjective decision on my part. Unless you tell me you don't want to, if you tell me we don't want to see anyone without at least, a master's degree or something, I can certainly identify who those are, but we can make that available for you or not. It's up to you all. But if there's some objective criteria you want me to apply, I certainly can, but I don't see there's any harm in getting you the information and letting you decide whether you want to even look at it or not.
And did I hear you just say that you will, to some extent, be able to be proactive in contacting individuals that you have either come in contact or have applied for similar positions in the past and feel would be a good fit? So it will
Yes,
not be
yes.
purely reactive as
No.
far as posting on, help wanted ads
No,
and
no,
see
no.
what comes in.
No, we have a list. We know who's out there looking. And by the way, I'm getting ready to be chair of the National Association of Superintendent Searchers. We have contacts all over the country. And so I know who's out there looking. And I know, and we're working with some other big districts now too. And what I don't want to do is tell you who I called. I don't want to prejudice you for or against any candidates because, oh, Allison didn't call them or she did. But what I do want to do is make sure you have a good pool. So I will work to get you a good pool. And that's one of the ways we do it is we know people who might be interested. And when you identify your criteria, I can identify who I think meets your criteria, that might meet your criteria. But I don't want you to know who those are because that would insert myself in your process.
Well, you said two things there, and
Okay.
you said those that might be interested and
Yeah.
those that are looking.
Right.
Frankly, I want the best that are out there to
Right.
see, to make them maybe be interested rather than those that are looking for their next job.
I call people too. I do. I have, like I said, I have contacts all over the country, and I have been in touch with people, and I know people that have gone on to other jobs who've done great things. I mean, I've been in this business for 30 years, so I will work all those angles. Okay. I will shake the trees as much as I can shake the trees. Okay. Okay, so that's getting the materials. And then after you get those materials with those tools, then we will give you some time to review the applications. And then we have right here a meeting on applications on June 7. That may or may not be a good date because it's a regular board meeting for you. But it usually takes about an hour and a half in closed session to go over the applications and to decide who you want to interview. And what we would ask you to do is when you get the box of materials is to identify the people that you're interested in interviewing. Not necessarily a specific number. I mean, if one of you wants to interview 5 and one of you likes 10, that's fine. That's the most inclusive stage of the process. And then we will go, the board members will come with each with your separate list. So develop an independent opinion. We find that there's generally in the top candidates a lot of consistency, and then there's some that don't get any votes, and it just cuts the discussion in down to have to come with the folks in the middle that we really talk about, because everybody wants to interview somebody. You don't need to spend a lot of time talking about that person. And if no one found someone that met your criteria, if you found someone that didn't meet anybody's criteria, then anyway, so that streamlines the discussion. And then we would meet on and choose the folks and decide where to do the interviews at that meeting on June 7 or somewhere around there. If you need a special meeting, it's about an hour and a half of time. So it depends on what you want to do. And that goes to your question about setting dates. And that's already a meeting scheduled for you. And then we have a range of meetings for initial interviews. Normally, boards interview between 7 and 10. Less than 7 and you don't feel like you have as much choice. But more than 10, it's pretty overwhelming. So that's generally the range. It doesn't have to be that many. If you interview more than 10, though, it's going to feel like a lot. So, and then after that, there would be you would choose who you wanted to move on. Normally, boards choose about 3 candidates. Some boards choose 4, some boards choose 2. If you only choose 2 and one drops out for some reason, then you don't have a choice left to make. So we really encourage at least 3. And we would do a complete background check at that point. We would recommend criminal and credit checks. We do reference checking. As I said, we have contacts all over the country. I also finished a stint as chair of the National Council of School Attorneys. So, I do have a lot of national contacts. And we also will talk to references, not the references that they give us, but the ones that we think will be fair. We always talk to the board chair and the vice chair, usually board attorney, and if they're not a superintendent, we would talk to the superintendent they work for, and we would try to be as thorough as we can and get as much information. If they have had several employments in the last several years, we'll check both or 3 or however many that go back a ways. So we try to be very thorough, and we can talk more about that when we get to the time, but it's very important to do a thorough check. That's the kind of information that you most need from us, which is our contacts. People will be honest with us. And we know people, every school system in the state is a member of our organization. And so we know all the board members and all the superintendents.
I might add there that that's a big plus in your favor because you've done that with me several times, either you or your staff has.
I have.
And I felt like I had a rapport with those folks because I've seen you so much and talked to you so much. So I think you get a much more candid viewpoint of candidates from board chairs.
Right, because we're going to be careful with your information, and we're going to preserve the integrity of what you tell us. And yes, when we appreciate your help, with folks that we've called you about too.
Allison,
Yes.
Isn't it getting more and more difficult to get those references because of the changes in laws, amount of personnel information that can be revealed? That make your job harder to actually get recommendations from people, kind of off the cuff, don't hire them. You can't get away with
No,
that kind of stuff.
we actually have a very long form, and John can attest to this because I've talked to him recently about someone. And so we have a pretty long form, and we spend about an hour with each reference. And people are generally pretty good because they know that when they need us and they call us to help them with their superintendent search, they're going to need the same quality information. So I do think that, and I do think we have a really good ability to get in-depth, honest information because of our relationships. There are some legal issues, but the reference information is not supposed to be revealed to the candidates. So it's not, they're not entitled to see references. Now, there are some federal laws that we have to worry about and providing information if something is the basis for a decision. But we are all lawyers who work on this in our department, so we understand those. And actually, Scott Murray, who's one of my people, has researched that. We research this a lot, so we're very careful that we comply with the federal laws while making sure we get the information. Does that
Well, I can imagine how you have to be careful, because if somehow you're speaking to a reference, this person doesn't get the job, and somehow from that reference, it gets back to their current employer that they were applying and they didn't realize it, that could have some kind of career repercussions for them, I would imagine.
Well, we will be talking to their current employer. That's one of the issues. We have to talk to their current board, but their boards generally don't want it to be public that they're looking for a job. But we will talk to the board chair or the vice chair. And again, we deal with that very delicately. I will say one thing that we get complimented a lot on by the candidates who work with our system is how careful we are and how respectful we are of the fact that they have a career to preserve and that they don't want it out there in public that they were a finalist and they were paraded around and they didn't get the job, because that's embarrassing. So we're respectful of them, and that makes them more likely to come to us. I've had people tell me, I won't never apply to a job that you're not doing the search for because I can trust you. I know that you'll do it right and you'll be careful with the information you get. So I feel like we have done really well by our people that way.
I've been through the process with you. I can say that you're border on secret agent at times.
Well, I'd
That's
say
true.
the same as when I was on the process, and I was very impressed.
Good, thank you.
And just the way the questions, there were no the way the questions were formed, and if there were a couple that I couldn't answer, because I just said so.
Right. Well, what we're looking for is the truth and honesty and a fair opinion. So again, we'll work on that. We'll talk more about that as we go on, but I want you to feel comfortable with the process, and you're asking great questions. Thank you. Okay, so we do that. We do a criminal and credit check. It's important that you do both. You do a criminal check for all your folks, and you also, this is the person who is responsible for a huge budget, and you want to make sure that their credit background is not a problem. And then the last interview is usually after all that period, after that information is collected, and then there's a meeting with final interviews where you get to ask more questions that might follow up the interviews, might follow up the references, might follow up the background checks, might be follow-ups from the interviews you had first and questions you had. And there are several different ways to do those last interviews, and we can talk about that when we get there. Okay, and then there's a contract discussion, at which case we turn it over to your board attorney. And we do not represent you. I need to make that clear. Even though we're lawyers, we are not your lawyers for purposes of getting legal advice. We have a knowledge of the people, and we also have a knowledge of the legal issues we have to help you keep out of, but we're not giving you legal advice. We're just keeping you out of trouble. That's part of the way, like with the federal background check stuff. And then there will be the announcement and introduction of the superintendent, and however soon they can get there after that is usually, we built in 30 days on this particular timeline, but there's more opportunity to change that backward or forward as the board is ready to do. So that's generally the process. I know that was a long time to spend on one document, but I did want to kind of go through the process because we didn't get a chance to talk to you before, so this is the first time we've really had a chance to explain that. I'm glad there were a lot of great questions. And any more questions about that? If not, Mr. Chairman, we do need an approval of that May 17 application deadline. If that's what.
May 17th is the application deadline, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other comments to add? All those in favor,
Can
please.
I do have one comment.
Sure,
We're
sure.
not approving the end date yet, the
No,
employment
no.
begin, just the application
No,
to the
date.
just,
17th.
just the app, that's the only date we need, the one that's in yellow there.
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're good. Thank you.
Okay, the next document is the advertisement. This is kind of a standard advertisement in some ways. Up at the top, I want to go through these paragraph by paragraph and make sure there's no questions. And if you want to change anything, please feel free to speak up. Obviously, you're looking for a superintendent and you have to meet the legal requirements to be licensed or be qualified to serve under the alternative guidelines, which I've already explained to you. That's basically the legal criteria. Here's where the next few sentences are where you put in what you prefer. Central office and building level experience are preferred. A doctorate or progress or a doctorate degree is preferred but not required. We do not recommend you put required because we have seen the best candidates be eliminated because they don't have one of those things, but they have a lot of other things that the board is interested in. So making them a blanket elimination will make you unhappy if you have a great candidate, but those are mandated, because most boards, when they say mandated, they feel like they have to stick with that even if they find a candidate that doesn't meet those. And then by law, the candidate has to live within Union County. So any changes to that? Anything else you would prefer to add? Do you want
The
to
only
add?
thing I'd ask is that, is the requirement to live within the county, but is there a time limit as to their search or?
No, it does. It just says required to live within the county. I think good faith as soon as reasonable is, I mean, you can put that in the contract too. If you can put a time limit in the contract if you want to make sure that if it's someone who's coming from out of the county and you want them to move in. It has been an issue from time to time in districts where the superintendent would reside in the county, but their spouse would stay wherever they were and they're not really living there full time. Those are the kind of things you need to talk about at the end when you're looking at your candidate and whether or not they're willing to move their family here, whether that's important to you or not, whether you want to give them a certain amount of time, that kind of thing. But those are contract negotiations. Okay? Are you okay with that paragraph the way it is?
Well,
then?
to the chairman's point, so it's not a successful candidate, it's the candidate will be required, right?
The successful candidate. It
No,
will be
The candidate.
the successful candidate. If you want to put the instead
Or
of
just
oh, we can
not
certainly
the
do it.
successful, I mean, because that's saying that you could have a candidate that's not successful that doesn't reside in Union County. Does that make sense?
The person who's hired is what that means. The person selected, we could put it that way if you think that's more clear. The person selected will be required. You okay? All right, just leave it like it is. Okay. Next paragraph is just, these are generic things that most superintendents need to be required to do. Visionary education, leadership, curriculum instruction, goal setting. Is there anything in that paragraph that the board would like to add to, change, take out? The one thing that is implied here but not stated is walks on water, but that's basically, we'd like somebody to be able to do everything that a superintendent does.
So would that be number 12?
Yeah, that's right. Maybe a little presumptuous to ask for that one, but yes, ma'am.
I don't know if this is possible or not, but what is everyone's thoughts on experience working with bonds or, bond experience?
That fall under number 10, planning and funding of school facilities.
Procuring additional funding, so you think that's subsumed in all that? We could put, I mean, if you'd be more comfortable, including working with bonds, we could put it in one of those places.
Okay, we can assume it's assumed.
Well, that's also
it's
something,
assumed.
whether it's written and stated in our advertisement, that's still something that can be brought up in our interview process, I think. And there's a
Okay.
lot that's unstated here that will come up in
Okay.
that interview process.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
That's
and
good.
remember, even your application is just a screening tool. You have another shot at the candidates that you want to speak to about asking questions about their experience in such areas. So we can actually ask it and we'll look at the application. It might be appropriate there to ask that, okay? The next third paragraph is a description of the school board. Is there anything there that needs to be changed? We took this from the website, the school website. Is there something that needs to be different?
We were just discussing our employee count
Okay,
is probably closer to 4,600, I think. 4,600 maybe.
4,600?
Current.
It fluctuates, but I think it's probably more, I'm looking at Dan and Dave, it's more like 4,700. I would say 47-ish,
Approximately 4,700?
approximately 4,700. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is old news, huh? Numbers. Okay, all right. Anything else in there that needs to be changed? The budget correct amount, the student numbers are approximately correct?
It's if as long as it says approximately.
So it's
The 391.
approximately 391 million on a budget.
Yes, we'll
that
be
right?
fine with approximately.
Okay. On a budget of over 391, is that correct? Okay, great. Okay, and then 41,700 students, is that about?
No, we're at over 42,000 today.
Okay, all right. Well, we got our information off websites. That's why we always ask, because it's not always exactly correct. Okay, the next paragraph is about the county itself. It just tells people where you are, some of the things that are distinct about your county. Is there anything in there that we took this off the Chamber of Commerce website? So is there anything you want us to say or differently or add? Again, we got it from the Chamber of Commerce, so if you want to change anything, this is just what they say.
Yeah, well, I guess coming off the chamber page, it would be hard to argue with them, but I'm not sure we're minutes from I-77. I think we're more like half hour, an hour from I-77, and probably minutes from 485.
Okay, the county is ideally situated on the I-4, and which circle? How about we just stop after the Charlotte metropolitan area? Take that out about 77.
Great.
Okay. All right, that's easy. Is your county population still approximately 216,000?
I think it's about 225, but I'm not going to testify to that in court.
Well, websites aren't updated on a regular basis, but yeah, any idea, Dan?
Sure you don't want to testify?
216? Okay, all right. Anything else about each of the communities in Union County has a distinct personality, et cetera? That's from the Chamber of Commerce website.
I didn't know we had chic salons,
Rest of it okay?
wineries.
Okay. Sounds like a great place to live. Okay, and the last paragraph is just contact me and information about the application. Okay, with those changes, are we okay with the application form?
Can we do that by consensus?
Yeah.
I think we're good with it.
Okay, just by consensus? Okay, that's fine. All right, the next document is a standard advertising options, and then the page 2 would be additional options. If you'll look at the places that we recommend you advertise, only one is a paid place, and that is 60 Days with the American Association of School Administrators. We find that reaches pretty much a national audience. In our experience, about half of the applications we get are out of state, pretty much consistently. That's gone down a little bit with our with our budgets being reduced a little bit, but we still get a number of applications out of state. And you probably will see city superintendents and that kind of stuff from out of state.
Would you recommend we go with the second page as well?
Well, let's just, we recommend the 60 days there. The second one are optional things. Some people like to advertise in Education Week. I mean, $790 is not a big advertising budget. And if you feel comfortable adding some of these things, the top school jobs would be probably the best one of those that I would, in Education Week, again, because that goes to everybody. There are also some that target specific populations. The American Association of School Personnel Administrators, that would target people with HR backgrounds. The Chronicle of Higher Education would target people in universities. The National Alliance of Black School Educators and the Association of Latino American Administrators and Superintendents target minority populations, if you would like to do those. The county commissioners and league of municipalities, we added those at the request of one school district that wanted those, but those are not very common for us to use unless you want people who are county commissioners or city managers doing this. Career Builder and School Spring are more generic and not targeted at your audience. So if you're going to add any, I would suggest the top 5 or some combination of those on that page 2. Any thoughts? I mean, most school districts, to be honest, most school districts stick with the front page. So, and maybe add education.
I mean, I would recommend we at least, we add the top on the education week.
Okay.
Since you sent that, that's at least my recommendation.
That's a, yeah,
Do we need
that
to- Is that a
targets
motion, Mr.
everybody.
Chair? Do we need to make?
I'm sorry, are you suggesting the first one, Education Week, top
Yeah, do
school
we need to
job?
make a motion for that?
I'd
do that, or
I'd
just-
like to cover all this in one motion if we could.
Okay.
So,
He's suggesting adding that plus the school administrators one, and the rest is free on the internet.
and the rest is free?
Yeah, on the front page.
Do you find that the other ones on the second page are covered in
Yes.
the other ones, you know?
Yes, they are somewhat repetitive, but
Okay.
it just targeted a specific audience. Okay. So I'm hearing one person saying add top school jobs from Education Week
And nobody's thrown anything at them
and the
yet, so I
American of
would.
School Administrators for $7.90, and that's it?
So would I hear a motion from you, Mr. Martin, the entire front page and the top item on the second
Motion,
page?
the entire front page and the education week top school jobs from the second page.
Second?
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Merrill.
And that includes the $7.90, not the 330 days.
Right, the 790 to 395,
Okay.
I'm
and all
assuming
the free ones you can get.
I'm assuming though that the 395 will be double since we'll be doing it for 60 days, correct?
Yes.
Okay, on the back.
2 times. So it's about the same cost as the American Association of School Administrators. Okay.
Is there any further conversation? All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. The next thing is the application. This is the way it will look to you when it comes to us with the letter, the applicants, et cetera. But if you'll look to page 3, that's where the application begins. This is an application that is on a national, it's a national company called Applitrack, and a lot of school systems actually use their services for You Do Here. But Applitrack has a special superintendent program that we are participant in many other state school board associations. So people who are from out of state will have seen this, and it's a benefit because it'll make it easier for them to apply. They will have already seen this in other states as well, and may have their information already on file. So most of this is standard. It's just license information, where do you live, and employment history. The main things and educational background, the standard stuff is at the beginning, okay? Community and professional activities. Then we get to some specific stuff that we need you to tell us what you want to know about in order to answer or in order to have an ability to screen. So page 9 of 15, if you'll turn to there on the bottom, you'll see the page numbers. We ask that you choose 4 to 6 short answer questions about their accomplishments or significant experiences, and then the next page would be essays about other questions beyond their experiences. So what do you want to know most about the candidates in order to decide whether you want to interview them or not? That's the question. We're not going to find all the information about the candidates. We don't want to make it too overwhelming for them or you. But what is most important for you to know as you're screening? And then we would ask that you consider choosing some of these. On page 9.
So what Allison is suggesting is we cut this down to 4 to 6 choices from the 10, please.
Right. So instructional leadership, is that something?
I mean, that's, gotta have that, our school system.
Do you want to, are we good on that one?
I think number 6 is important.
Number 6, fostering community relations and governmental and intergovernmental partnerships, okay? Number 2 is financial planning, budgeting, and procuring additional funding.
Number 4.
Number 4
7.
is goal setting and monitoring student achievement.
I heard 7 also.
7 is the use of instructional technology and other innovative media, which I know is very strong in the system and very important.
I'll take
9
9 and 10.
and 10. Safe school environments and planning school facilities. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are we good with those?
What do we leave out?
Instructional leadership, but you have it covered kind of in goal setting and monitoring student achievement.
I thought 1 we kept in.
Well, instructional leadership?
We left out 3, 5, and 8.
Okay, so 1 we want to put in?
Oh, yeah.
3, 5, and 8, okay. Again, these are questions you can ask in the interviews and in addition, so. You want to put
You
it
wanna-
8 in? No? Okay, we're good with leaving 3, 5, and 8 out of this application?
I
Okay,
think we got
Yeah,
1,
'cause we
2,
can ask
4,
them.
6, 7, 9, and 10.
got
Just
it.
I
have
think
to
that's
circle
all.
those are the ones we want to ask.
That's a
in
bunch.
the-
And there'll be tons of questions in it. This, I found that this sheet, similar to this that we had, was very beneficial in narrowing things down. But it certainly was not an end-all be-all as to who our superintendent would be.
Right, it's just a screening tool. Remember, that's what the application is. Who are you interested, who's gotten your interest enough for you to want to talk to them? The next page on 10 and 15, some sample questions. Again, you can ask anything you want, but these are some of the stuff that our folks had interest in beyond the experiences. So we usually suggest 3 or 4 here. And they can be something different from here.
I think number 2.
Number 2, how would the superintendent and board work together? That's a big issue in the success of the superintendent.
I also like number 3.
Number 3 is raising student achievement levels and closing achievement gaps. Okay? Anything else? Are those 2 sufficient, or do you want?
Number 6?
Number 6, please
Leadership
describe your
style.
leadership style.
No, leadership styles, no, number 6.
Are we
2, 3, and 6.
2, 3, and 6?
I'm
6?
fine with that.
Is that okay? 2, 3, and 6? Okay? Is that it? What an agreeable group of board members. Everybody's on the same page. Okay, if we're good with the application as, with those selections, the rest of it is, basically other pro forma stuff. Mr. Chairman, are we okay with consensus, or do you want to vote on that?
Can we do this by consensus, folks, or do you want to vote? I think we're all in agreement on it.
I think we're good.
We're
Okay,
good, we're good.
Got it. Okay, the next documents are the survey documents. The question first is, do you want to do a survey?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think it is a good way for your public and your staff to get input. You will see 2 documents of each color. The reason we have 2 documents of each color is that these are community and staff. And we find that it's helpful to survey them separately from each other so that you can see what your staff-specific concerns are and what your community-specific concerns are. And then we can compare and contrast those. And it provides good information to the board about what those different groups prioritize. The yellow survey is a simpler survey. You'll get more people to fill it out because it's easier and it's not that long. The second survey, the green survey, is a more complicated but richer survey in terms of the detail it provides you about what people are concerned about, but you'll get less people filling it out because it requires you to rank what you think are most important. And some boards really, really want something like this. And so we have several options, and these can be altered as you choose. But we do recommend that you do a survey of some kind. So
The yellow.
I don't know how you feel about.
I'll just say, I like the green survey for one reason. And I like that if you look at the community survey number 2, it lets you select multiple reasons, like multiple things that you're involved in. So I live in the sample county attendance. I'm retired. I represent a business, et cetera, et cetera. So you can get some rich information about who you are in the county and who the survey
Filling out
taker
the
is.
survey?
What's that?
You mean the information about the survey people?
About who's being
filling it
surveyed,
out?
who's filling it out. And on the yellow one, it doesn't have as rich of information about who the person filling it out is. It just says, do you have children attending the sample county schools?
Well,
If
that's
so,
easy to fix. We can just take that question and put it into the yellow one if you prefer the yellow one substantively.
I like the yellow one substantively, but I like
That question.
the ability to understand who's
Who's answering?
answering the question,
Okay.
who's answering the question.
We can take that number 1 from the sample community survey and plug that into the end of number 2, where we do have some demographic information.
I like number 2 because it lets everybody answer on every single
yellow?
criteria, the yellow one. Because the green one, it gives you have to pick 5. This one, you get to answer on every one, which is most important, least important.
Okay,
Because
so
if-
are you all okay taking the demographic information from 2 and plugging it into the rest of, at the end of the yellow surveys?
How do you ensure that, that people are only taking the survey once instead of multiple times?
There's a block on the program that keeps them from doing it from the same computer twice. The same URL.
So they could do it from their phone, they could do it from work, they could do it from home.
Yeah. Well, remember, this is not a scientific survey. It's not like voting where you only get 1 vote. It is, if people want to go to those links to say the same thing 3 times, I suppose they could. But this is an opportunity for people to tell the board what their concerns are. It's not a scientific survey. So we have that block on there where the same person cannot fill it out there are only a limited number of computers we get access to, but, so that's the way we control it. But we can't be sure that you don't get it to do it from two different advisors. But we haven't had that problem. Actually, what you're going to find is one of the most important pieces of this is the detail that people write in. A lot of people write comments. Not everybody does, but probably about half of the people type in whatever's on their mind. So you may get some people that are talking about things that are not necessarily the superintendent search, or you may get people who are upset about something. And it's anonymous, but it's not confidential. So remember, this is going to be public with the names redacted. If somebody puts, please hire so-and-so, don't hire so-and-so, that we have to redact out, but the rest of it's going to be public. So it's anonymous as to who fills it out, but not confidential. So it'll be public.
Allison, do you have to fill out does it require you to fill out the whole thing in order to be counted? Or can you,
No.
if they just fill out part of it and submit it?
You can start and not finish, and that happens a lot. And we'll report that. We'll say, 950 people started, 925 people finished. That'll be part of our report.
Number 25 in the yellow copy, please share any additional comments that you may have.
Yes.
Is that unlimited space?
Yeah. We
So
don't
they
have,
can manuscript in anything basically they want us to add that's not covered in any of the questions.
yeah. So you want to add that are not.
I don't write that small.
That are not covered in the other questions? Is that what you like?
So can I assume what we're going to do is accept the yellow copy with the demographics moved over to the green copy? Is that pretty much where we are?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's already, the demographics from the staff survey are the same in both copies, so it's just that one.
Community.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, anybody have any major objections to that? Okay, we're good there.
Okay, so
Thank
that's
you.
a consensus too? Okay, good. Wow, you all are easy. Okay, the last thing is,
Some people would say that.
the last thing that is, we ask you to fill out is, this is a recruiting tool. This is a Super Pro Match district profile. Our National Superintendent Search Group has a candidate pool where all the candidates have filled out this information. And we ask you as a board to fill it out, what your priorities are, and get it back to us. We can do this 2 ways. You can either, it's better if you all just complete it separately, and we will merge them. And what this does is it kicks your profile into this candidate pool, and people that match your candidate pool will get a letter suggesting that they might want to apply for this position. So it's just a national database, and it's like a Match.com for superintendent search, really, something like that. So,
Okay, can we talk about the logistics of this, when it has to be turned in?
Within the next week or so. So
Well,
if you could just fill them out separately at your tables, or you can just give them to us. Jim or Scott or somebody will call you if you don't get them to us. You can just email them to us. Either way is fine.
Yep, just scan them and email them.
Scan them and email is fine.
Let's look at a 7-day time frame on this, folks. Is that okay? Give us enough time?
Yeah, okay. So we'll just, Tanya or someone like that from my office will be tracking you down if you don't get them to her. So
Tanya or someone like that?
someone like that.
Jim, are you someone like that?
Yeah.
Where should
No,
we email
mostly
these
Tanya
to?
is the tracker downer, because she's good at finding people. Pardon? Yes. Email it to me. Yeah, it's on the bottom there, or else, yeah, that's fine. Email it to me. And my information is also, my email information should also be on the bottom of the advertisement. But if you need it, I can give you a card too, if you want it. Okay? And I think you already have my email addresses because we emailed you this stuff for today. Okay, Mr. Chair, that's all we have to get you started, and we are good.
Well, that's great. That was painless so far.
Yeah.
Can you guarantee us the rest of the process will be as painless?
Just remember, it will be a quiet time in terms of candidates' feedback because the information will be coming into us. So this 8 weeks is to get community and staff input, but you're not going to hear from candidates. If you do get a call from any of the candidates, please refer them to us. If people start contacting you directly, that's not appropriate, and that happens sometimes. So please just refer them to us. Say, Ms. Schaefer's handling this. Please get in touch with her. Sometimes, occasionally, they will send applications to the central office because they don't read directions. But Madam Superintendent, I would appreciate you sending those on to us. I'm sure you will. So if people send things into the central office, we try to avoid keeping things through the central office. It preserves confidentiality not to have stuff being handled in the central
I would
office.
never see it. That would go to Donna. She opens
Okay, and you'll
also.
send it to us.
She would do that.
And Donna, keep track of those names so we know who to call from our list immediately if we're not following directions.
I have a question about the surveys. So how will the word get out? Where will that be?
We are going to work, I've already spoken to your PR
Okay.
officer here and your communications officer, and we are going to ask her to help us get that word out through your press, to your parents. The staff will go through your internal system. I presume you have a parent contact information, but we'll also ask her to work with the newspapers that she has contacts with and the other media to maybe do an article. Most local press do an article about that. And we'll just try to get the word out as much as possible. It's not just for parents, it's for everyone in the community who wants to fill it out.
And will we have a link from our website?
Yes, we'll have it. We'll ask her to put out, it'll be seamless. We use SurveyMonkey and but it'll go directly from that link into our SurveyMonkey. And it tabulates stuff. So keep in mind, when you'll get the raw data plus a report from us. As board members, and we can't go in and even change typos. So if it comes how people submitted it, and we can't fix it, and we shouldn't be able to because we shouldn't mess with it at all. So, okay, so that will come before you and present those when they're done. So, any other questions?
Is there any other questions from anybody on the board?
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We look forward very much to working with you, and
Thank
please
you.
let us know if you have any questions at all. Hopefully, we've answered most of them today.
Allison, I just want to say thank you. You've always been there for us, and we appreciate the perimeter this morning.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. It's our pleasure, really. Okay.
And now we will move to number 6, which is a recess for closed session. And I need a motion to go into closed session to prevent the disclosure of privileged personnel information under Chapter 115C, Article 21A of the North Carolina General Statutes pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A1. Do I have that motion? Have that motion. Do I have that second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. And I'm not sure how long we'll be in closed session, but closed session is up the stairs, past the vending machines, take a left into the darkened room, take another left into the room with the lights on. And it will certainly be okay if everyone wants to make a slight deviation to one of those 2 rooms there that say men and women on them on the way. Thank you. We're back in open session. We have one decision from closed session, and then we'll have comments, announcements, and adjournment. The decision coming out of closed, oh, well, I can't make the motion, so somebody will have to make the motion. Chair can't make a motion.
Okay, I'll make it.
Thank you.
Vice Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we name Michelle Mars as the interim superintendent and Dr. John Jones as the interim deputy superintendent until a new superintendent is hired to begin at the time of Dr. Ellis's last day.
Can you add contingent upon contract negotiation for the
Contingent
interims?
upon contract negotiations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Helms. I have a second.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
could we also, would you entertain a friendly motion that part of this is the council and Dr. Jones in their interim positions will transfer back to the positions they hold? Would you accept that as a friendly amendment and we can vote on that right quick?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take that first friendly motion that they get to revert back to their original contracts at the end of the interim position, correct? Okay. We good with that? Do I have a second for that? I do. Oh, you did? No, not the original motion. Kevin's.
Second.
And I have that from Mr. Guzman. You got that, Ms. Malarkey? Yes, I did. Okay, good. All those in favor of the friendly motion, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. And now we'll vote on the original motion. All those in favor of the original motion, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, thank you. And now we'll have board comments. Do we have any?
I'd just like to thank Ms. Schaefer again for coming. That was a wonderful presentation. I feel like we are in great hands. Thank you.
Are there any announcements for other meetings? Ma'am?
Policy is canceled for this Thursday, so there will not be policy
Oh,
Thursday.
sorry, I shouldn't have done that with an open mic.
Just a reminder, finance will be meeting Thursday morning, 7:30 in the boardroom.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Do I have a second?
Second.
Gary? Or is that Martin? Martin. All those in favor? Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you, folks.